We are expecting a decision from the Fulton County judge on whether he will disqualify the Fulton County DA, Fani Willis, from prosecuting Trump's Georgia election case. It all stems from claims she had an inappropriate relationship with the special prosecutor she hired for the case. The judge says he will rule today, adding, "I plan to stick to the timeline I gave everyone. The message I want to convey is no ruling of mine is ever going to be based on politics. I'm going to be following the law the best I understand it."
Fox News legal analyst Mercedes Colwin joins us now. Mercedes, good morning to you. Here we go. So what do you think is going to happen? Do you think she is going to get disqualified from this case?
There's so much information, Carly and Todd, and thank you so much for having me on this show. There's so much information swirling around her hiring of her former lover. We know that their allegations, they were clear. Both Nathan Wade and Fani Willis were testified under oath that they did not start the relationship until after the relationship, but there had been testimony to contradict that. So at the center of it, the judge has to decide whether Fani Willis breached the sacred trust of the state that's imposed upon her as the state's prosecutor. And any prosecutor will tell you that is a sacred trust that they have to make certain that they uphold. Why do I say that? Because they have such wide discretion as to whether or not to prosecute individuals, and especially here when the prosecution is of a former president.
There's so many layers to this case. The latest one that I don't even know if we've talked about this week, this judge is up for re-election. And the individual who has primaried him, if you want to call it that, is a Democrat, obviously looking at, sort of using the groundswell of, let's call it scrutiny against the Democrat in this case for his or her own advantage. So going forward, do you think that this judge will ultimately focus on the facts of the case and not let his re-election come into play?
That's $1 million question, Todd, and that's certainly something that a lot of critics are looking very closely to see whether the headwinds of the politics are going to influence his decision. Ultimately, he has to demonstrate that there's no bias, that he's not being arbitrary. If he does rule against Fani Willis, she will have the opportunity to object to it, appeal it, and certainly raise the very question that you're asking, whether politics were at play in the decision.
So, Mercedes, there are also allegations that someone on Willis's staff misused federal grant money. And now Jim Jordan is threatening to hold Willis in contempt of Congress for failing to turn over information related to this. So from one legal issue to another potentially for Fani Willis, how serious is this?
At the center of this battled prosecutor, it's going to be whether or not the allegations of this misuse of federal funds, really what it stems from, according to Ms. Willis, is it stems from a disgruntled former employee, a holdover employee from a prior administration that was fired for cause. They're the ones that raised the allegations of the mismanagement of federal funds. And if you just focus on that origin, obviously there will be those who doubt the veracity of whether or not there is any truth to it. But if there is some truth that there's mismanagement of federal funds, that is extremely problematic for Ms. Willis. There will be a lot of fallout. So far, she has provided some of the documentation to Jim Jordan and the House committee members, but not all of them. And it's not unusual for individuals that are being subpoenaed for documents to have this sort of piecemeal compliance with that subpoena. So we'll have to see whether the funds were actually mismanaged, whether there's documentation to show that there is some veracity to those allegations. But if there are, it's extraordinarily problematic for her.
That's right. And she's, as Todd said, the judge is running for re-election. Obviously, so is former President Trump. She's running for re-election as well, and she's got two challengers. So we'll see when all is said and done if she gets to keep her job or if this has lasting ramifications.
It should also be noted, Mercedes, that this is not normal. Law is boring. We don't really have soap operas like this in the law. This is an odd case. We know she likes Grey Goose. It's an odd case. Mercedes Colwin, thanks for your insight.
Thanks, Mercedes. Have a great day.
I'm Steve Doocy.
I'm Brian Kilmeade.
And I'm Ainsley Earhart. And click here to subscribe to the Fox News YouTube page to catch our hottest interviews and most compelling analysis.